Hello, and hopefully that's all working properly, and I think I should be unmuted. Welcome to this impromptu part 2 Tech and Chill stream. I'm going with Tech and Chill for the time being, but if anyone can think of a better name, maybe I'll rename it. I've got a couple of people watching, at least 2 of you. SG1 squad assemble, yes. I think we need to do this now. We need to build an SG1 loadout. Well, or several SG loadouts, whether or not it is one or we make up our own SG unit. So let me just check. My usual checks. Is the audio okay? Is the video feed okay? Am I very jittery or is it nice and buttery smooth? And let me just check that no one's screaming and shouting at me in the Facebook comments. Why is there a post in it there? Have I bought an MP5 yet? Or is that addressed to Anvil? Because I have 2 MP5s. I have a working one and then I have a broken ass Classic Army one that I might steal parts off to make a slightly different looking MP5. And we're live. Boom. Nope, that is my stream key. I probably shouldn't post that publicly. No, that's still the stream key. Copy that. So how is everyone doing this evening? How has your Monday been? I know Mondays suck. Spent the entire day sitting in my office at work. Twiddling my thumbs. Oh, no. Getting Arduino code to work that wasn't working. Yes, we do use Arduino in the industry. Oh god, that sounds good. Yeah, Tom, have you bought an MP5 yet? Have you figured out what MP5 you're going to buy? Big eyes. Yo, sorry, what's your SG1? Where did you find it? Or did you have to buy it from Amazon? Or have you found a streaming service for it? That'd be interesting to know. Right. Well, we got a couple of people watching, so we might as well crack on with it. Here is the messy table from yesterday. As you can see, not much has changed here. And when I left off, after going slightly crazy finding the upper receiver, which was in the vise, I was saying I was going to redo the wiring because this is quite chunky wires and they don't need to be, and also stamped steel acts as a pretty good cutting surface, so some of the insulation's been snipped a bit, so this is being retired. And where's my box of bits? We'll be chucking in some new thinner wire. Excellente. So by VFC Jazz Buyback. That is very true. If VFC survives to keep making them. That was an interesting post today from Stu about the Taiwan's possible equivalent of VCRA kicking in and basically banning gas blowbacks. Oh, hi, Harry. There's, I'm not sure which version of Mark that is we've just seen come into the chat, because I know there are several, as shown last night. If you haven't seen it, jump on over to Thin Brown Line and check out his latest little video. I pissed myself watching that, and I knew what was coming. But yeah, coming back to the Taiwan stuff, that's pretty interesting, seeing as most of the gas blowback companies I can think of are probably Taiwan based, other than Tokyo Marui. Trying to think of any others. Nope. So hopefully the manufacturers lobby together and the airsoft players out there lobby together and, you know, get that airsoft exemption made. Hopefully. Obviously, early days, I don't entirely know what's going on. Uh, that reminded me. Oh my god. Hi, new on the scene. Hello, all Airsoft West Mids. Welcome to the scene, as you said. This is going to be a fun little live stream of me probably cocking up building a new wire harness, which is really not that complicated. Here is the old wire harness. Also, if you're new here, feel free to ask away random questions. I'm more than happy to try and answer, or refer to some of the other people in the comments who might know better. As we proved yesterday, I got schooled on how to properly sling an L85 in terms of in terms of which way around you to sling it, muzzle up or muzzle down. Have I checked the vise? I have checked the vise and it is empty, Tom. Empty. Do you want me to show you on the camera? I can show you the empty vise at the moment. Oh, I just caught my finger on that. Right, anyway, I've only come to watch Ben stuff things up. Yep, well, Chris, you are in the right place for that, because you know me, I always cock things up. Right, so now that we're going, I think it's time we crack on. I have here some wire, I believe it's 18, yeah it is 18 gauge, and we're going to need Dean's connectors, which I actually have a whole bag of, which got ordered actually for my work that they didn't need, so I was allowed to nab them, which have very kindly provided us with heat shrink, because I've run out of my own supply and I need some more. So, for those of you who don't know much about connectors, if your gun runs Mini-Tam, I highly recommend getting them changed out to something like Dean's or even XT60s. In fact, XT60s are probably a safer design as opposed to Dean's. Oh, let's have a look. What does gauge mean? So gauge is it's AWG, which is American wire gauge, and gauge is basically the diameter of the wire, and the higher the gauge, the thinner the diameter, and the I think the lower the current rating it can carry. Obviously, current is a current. The amount of current it can carry is all determined by the voltage and resistance rating of the wire, because for any length of wire it will have a given resistance. Along the wire, that resistance gets added up, and the more resistance in a wire you have, the more power draw you have, or power loss you have through that wire, and that power gets turned into heat. And obviously, the more heat you have, the closer to the melting point of the wire you get, and then if you get close enough, it can burn and melt them. As Chris will no doubt jump in and state about, seeing as Chris in the chat builds or has built robots for like Robot Wars, and so he knows all about high current draw. And yes, his EC3s, I believe those are the modular, fancy non-reversible connectors. You can go for EC3s. Basically, it's your choice, but get away from Mini-Tams. And Deans are good, or T-plug as Airsoft calls them, although as some Airsoft retailers call them, not retailers, manufacturers. Although they can possibly, they do have some safety issues where these little sprung plates. In fact, I'll hold it up. Hang on. And JX4, I will get to you in a second. We'll finish talking about the connectors first, and then we'll talk about that. So you can see there's these little sprung plates on them. That little doohickey and that little doohickey there. They can sometimes, if you install them incorrectly, can get bent upwards and then short between your positive and negative, which is not a great thing to do. However, some of the benefits over Mini-Tam is that these are clearly marked positive and negative. One thing with Airsoft is Airsoft Mini-Tam batteries tend to be wired the other way round from remote control car Mini-Tam batteries. So sometimes if you buy a new battery and your gun doesn't seem to work with it, that's probably why, because running your gun backwards is not a good idea. So my M4 is shooting around 270 brand new. It was 318. What would you suggest to higher the FPS? When you say it was 318, was that when you first got it and ran your first mag of ammo through before you set your hop? Because setting your hop will vary your FPS. Actually, while I'm talking, I might as well go to full screen. So adding hop to lift your BBs will happen to reduce your FPS, because obviously you're pushing something into the barrel to add backspin and you're adding resistance to your BB to spin it. So if it's a case of it was first chronoing at 318 and now has dropped to 270, and those are both on 0.2 gram BBs, then well, one, is it still ranging fine? In that case, just leave it. FPS isn't everything in airsoft. In fact, some of my guns are. I think that one's about 240, 250 on 0.2s, and yeah, it will still throw BBs out 50 odd meters. Yeah, Rick. Sorry, Rick. I was just reading the comments. Rick makes a good point about Deans being all one size, because you can get mini tam, and you can get Tamiya large tam, and that's really annoying because some guns come with large tam, some guns come with mini tam. My recommendation is, if you're going to change your connector, make sure you standardise on connectors across your guns. He says not having standard connectors across his guns. Standardise your connectors across your guns. So if you're going to go with Deans, great, go with Deans across all your guns. That's something I do need to do, because both the AK and the MP5 and the Sterling all run Tamiya at the moment. I just haven't got around to changing them yet. No, hot both when I chrono and the range has gotten shit. Okay. How long have you had the M4 for? Is it relatively new, or have you had it a couple of years? Because that can cause issues. Yeah. I know a lot about the mini tam issues about being reversed. Thanks to Chris again, because he has used RC cars, but also he used to stock. Well, he still does stock batteries. He used to do all the stock, sort out batteries and stuff for my old society, or our old society, Supac. Chris, for reference, is now running Super 5 store, so he still does it. Okay, so 3 years. So that could be a air seal issue. That was something I started addressing yesterday in terms of my gearbox part of things. So it could be that you need to effectively do what I did yesterday, and take apart your gearbox and give it a good clean out and a re-grease, and make sure you've got compression in your cylinder or in your compression parts. The other thing it could be is your hop-up rubber has worn out, in which case you need to switch out your hop-up rubber, and that should help. So hop-up rubber is probably the easiest thing to do. So you can pick up a new hop-up rubber for a couple of quid. In fact, I just bought a load. I tend to go with G&G greens. I find they work well for me. Ask different people, you'll get different answers. Really, if you've got spare cash, I'd say pick up, go and ask what people think are good hop-up rubbers, and then pick up a couple of them and try them out and see which one works best for you. Changing a hop in an M4 is actually really easy. Where is it? There it is. Provided it's, I'm assuming it's just a standard AEG, not like a TM recoil or a gas gun. But to change your hop, all you have to do is take your upper receiver off. Oh, this one's a bit finicky because of the mag release. Ooh. And the dust cover. And pull your barrel out of it. Sometimes they retain a bit better in the upper receiver than this. Like so. Let me just put these valves down. And then we'll switch over to table cam. Make a bit of space because I have not left any for myself. You want to wind your hop all the way off. like so. That is all the way off, isn't it? Yep. Then you want to take this little catch off. That's pretty simple, just fingernail under, ping it off. Then side your barrel out. Make sure you keep your hop upside down because there's your hop nub in there. And then you've got access to your hop rubber. And then it's a simple case of sliding it off. You want to feel it. Normally they will be quite supple, but the older the hop rubber is, the kind of harder it gets. You can either try massaging like silicone grease into it, that sometimes revives them, or easily just get a new hop up rubber and switch it out. Like I said, they're about a £5 each. I would recommend, yeah, I've stripped the gun multiple times. Compression with the piston cylinder is lacking. I'll look for a new rubber. Excellent. Again, if your compression parts are lacking, don't use Teflon tape. Silicone grease is your friend. Try gently stretching the cylinder head O-ring. That tends to help. And if you can't get the compression up, both the cylinder head and the piston head O-ring, and if you can't get the compression up, you can buy new O-rings for the piston head, and you can buy new cylinders for M4s for, again, a couple of quid or a couple of dollars. I'm not sure where you're based, but you can get new parts. So fixing compression parts are not a major issue. Other than that, do you clean your barrel? That's another big issue. Another big cause of FPS losses. Obviously, more crap in your in your barrel that can drop your FPS. Piston seal isn't great. Pick up some. Oh, that's a good hint there. Good shout, Rick. O-rings. If you can find the right size O-rings, then go for it. Right, I'm just going to quickly put the M16 back together, and then I think we'll crack on with the L85. Excellent, JX4. Cleaning after every game is a great idea, or clean before every game is a great idea. People wonder why their performance seems to suffer from game to game, and it's normally because they haven't cleaned their gun in a long time. I had a friend at uni who bought a very expensive TM recoil, and after 2 years of playing, he had never cleaned the barrel in it. I was blown away by that. In fact, I was so annoyed that he still hadn't cleaned his barrel that I actually called him out in my TM417 review and was like, clean your bloody barrel. Right. Let's slide the M16 back together. Oh, that's why. Whoops. The body pin had gone back in and stopping the hop going in. Put that in. And it seems to be working. I'm really liking this. I've yet to take it out and range it or take it to a game, obviously, but I'm hoping it does well because I really want to give this a good review. That being said, if it does suck, I will say it sucks. Can't remember the last time I cleaned a gun. Barrels are pretty regular, but guns not so much. Yeah, I agree. I tend to try and give mine a clean and a re-grease once a year. I mean, I don't play as often as I'd like to, so certainly don't play as often as I used to. It's a bit of a shame. Oh, there we go. Some more people are going to be joining us from UCAT because they want the link posted there. There we go. Right. I don't unless they've gone pop. Oh, well, yeah, each their own. You can wait until they go pop. It tends to align with a year for me between seeing, like, I tend to look and then go, I swear this isn't performing as well as it used to. And then that's time for it to have a little service. Yeah, there you go. Or a serious performance drop. One thing I will say is, even if you don't use the gun, things like O-rings and hot rubbers can drop in degrading quality, and obviously then you're going to drop your air seal and you're going to drop your consistency. So that's one thing. Oh, Chris, you're a couple of minutes behind, I think. There was a point where I think we were running games every weekend, plus running a midweek game. That was a stressful time. I should have been focusing on my degree, but no, I was running airsoft gloves. Yeah. Oh dear. Right. Anyway, the stream's now been going for 20 odd minutes, and I've still yet to actually start doing what I was going to do. So I'm going to take a lovely sip of my hot chocolate beverage. What are we all drinking tonight? What have we all got? Funny mugs. Oh. I'll just put this fire here with the rest of the fire. Oh my. Well, you've still got access to the back end data, so you can have a look and tell us how many games my term as president, how many games we ran under my term as president. Why am I taking the gearbox part? I don't need to do that. Fizzy lemon. Camden Pale Ale. Oh, everyone's fancy. I'm just drinking your bog standard Cadbury's hot chocolate. Right. Let's pull my handy little handy hopper. So, which way around should we do it? Because I'm happy to do it either way. Shall I do Dean's first, or shall I do motor connectors first? Actually, no. Scratch that. I'm going to do motor connectors first. I don't remember stripping these wires on the stream last night, so I'm going to do this again. And just for completeness' sake, I'm going to drag out my proper wire strippers just to show them off. Have you had a black market haircut? No, I got annoyed with my fuzzy hair, and it was getting hard to sleep. Like, my head was getting very hot, so I got Alice to sit down with some shears and shear my hair off. And seeing as she has lived in Wales most of her life, she's pretty good at shearing fur off people or sheep. So she did actually a pretty good job. I mean, just don't look too closely and don't look at the back where she may have tried to fade it, and it was oh, I'll just try and fade it. Oh, so yeah, don't look at the back of my head. Proceeds to turn away and show you the back of his head. Pulling out some of my rarely used toolboxes. Oh no, these are all spare batteries / dead batteries. Oh, yeah, some of these I need to try and throw some of these away. This is the toolbox I was looking for. And my wire strippers aren't here. I don't know where they are. Wow, that was a nice interlude. Right, well, I don't have any wire strippers to show you, but normally when you're stripping wire, you strip wires with the wire stripper. Funny that, but I am stubborn and don't. And now everyone's going to start moaning in the comments, especially Chris. I was taught a long time ago by one of my old electronics teachers the side snip wire strip method, which is use your finger in between as a rough guide to help guide your snips to the right depth. And I've got grease on my hands, which is so helpful. I haven't even used the grease and my hands have got grease on them. Bollocks. There we go. So that's the red wire stripped. Now the black wire. This would be so much easier if I wasn't colourblind. Fun fact, I am in fact colourblind, red-green. Although I can tell that is red, and I can tell... Shit, there's nothing green here. Ah, I can tell that is green. But most of the colours between, like, brown, I have trouble distinguishing between. Hence, when I was trying to pick out the colours for the EK3 rails, I had a real hard time there, and in fact, I don't know if it's going to be 100% accurate, but I'm hoping it will be good enough for the 10-foot rule. No wire strippers. I do have wire strippers somewhere, I just don't know where. Oh, hang on a moment. Oh, you can got excellent. This is my box of random stuff that I barely look at. Actually, most of my boxes fall under that category. Look at all this fancy stuff in here. That's a oscilloscope probe. Ooh, some more solder. Tennis racket wraps. Those are really good if you want to pad up a grip to be slightly nicer underhand. The original bevel gear out of my ICS, I think. Anyway, you probably don't care about my box. So I do have the Maplin's crimp slash wire stripper, but I wouldn't recommend it. Plus, you can't buy them anymore because Maplin's doesn't exist. Then I have my lovely university issued ones with the wrong size spring to go with it. Yep. Whoops. There should be a spring there to help, but yeah, you goes around there. So we are dealing with 18 gauge, so we'll try these. I know, Chris, I know they will be whatever colour I told you they need to be. The problem is I am colourblind, so all the browns look the same. So I think RAL 8000 is the right colour, though some of the people in the SA80 owners group think it might not be, but who knows. Anyway, I'm going to cut that little bit that I just stripped off to show you how to use a wire stripper. Believe it or not, they are very complicated to use. So we know this is 18 gauge wire, as it says on the wire. Yes, it is Maplin solder. Right, 18 AWG, right there. That's 18 American wire gauge. So we go to our wire strippers and we find the one that is labelled 18. Okay, now my camera decides not to focus. The 18, so the second one's up. Grab our wire, run it through to about the depth we want it, and we close and pull. Look at that, you strip the wire. But normally I can't be bothered to go find these, so I just use these. And if you 3D print stuff, you may recognise these as the Creality side snips. Yes, I have been abusing them. I'm awful, and I need to go buy some new tools at some point. So now that we have our wires stripped, I'm going to move some stuff about to make a bit more space. Don't move my toolbox for the time being. I will need the lighter in a bit. We are going to get one of these out. These are quality stripping skills. I know my stripping skills are legendary. People pay me many monies to strip. Hang on. Strip wires. Wires. Guys, wires. get your mind out of the gutter. Yes, come back to the EK3 colours. They will be whatever colour they will be, and they will be RAL 8000 and black. So, if you want black, you get black. If you want somewhat like the original, the RAL 8000s will be there, and I'm fairly sure that they will be the right ones. I tried to colour match it. And if the feedback comes back that they're not quite the right colour, the next batch we will endeavour to improve. So I've got my soldering iron here, I've just plugged it in, and I'm missing my soldering iron sponge, so I'm using an actual cleaning sponge. I don't recommend it, but again, I have neglected to buy new equipment recently, which I will be doing soon. Now I'm just going to put a bit of water on there, soak the rest of it up with the sponge. And the paper towel. By the way, if you've come here for an actual soldering guide, Purple Helmet, go check his video. He actually has a very good video on how to solder, which I recommend checking out. Now, motor tab connectors, I believe, are 1/4 inch blade connectors. Gee, that was kind of small for a 1/4 inch. Why do I think? Or are they 1/8 inch? They might be 1/8 inch. It's amazing how many stuff you forget. I don't know, Tom. Bearing in mind it's H&K, they tend to like to be pretty precise about things, don't they? Okay, yeah. So this is in 0.15 inch. So just over 1/8 of an inch. Mil is 3.8 mil, if you're wondering. So I would assume that the internal width is 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, that's looking very much like it's going to be 1/8 of an inch. So we're looking for 0.125, 0.13 with a bit of a stretch. Yeah. So these will be 1/8 inch blade connectors, which you can pick up dirt cheap in big bags. Have any of you seen any updates from the media about this F-15 that went down today? Because they found the wreckage, but well, the last I heard, they found the wreckage, but not the pilot yet. Hopefully they found the pilot. Right, so I'm just trying to straighten up the wire and get to nicely see. Oh no, that's bad news. Oh, that's not good. Yeah. Oh. That's sad news about the pilot. To be honest, I wouldn't want to spend a day stuck in the North Sea. Right, so I'm just using my solder helper to get the wire nicely seated in the into the fitment there, and the way you should get it to line up is with the back tab around the insulation and the front tabs around the wire. So when you clamp this all down, you've got a nice hold on the insulation to take most of the pull. Oh, that took me a second. That took me a second, Tom. Are you multitasking, watching this and watching Stargate? And if so, what episode? And isn't it Captain? Actually, would you go rank or title? Right. So again, you can get crimping tools, which is supposedly what this is meant to be, but I don't trust this to crimp my stuff, so I'm going to be using another dirty trick, which is pliers. So I tend to do the exposed metal first and then the insulation. This is going to be a bit tricky to try and show on camera and not block the camera while I do it, but hey ho, let's give it a go. No, why would I want you to focus on the wire? Thank you. So I'm going to come in and crimp that part down, like so. Then it's going to spin around and spin around, and I'm going to come in and crimp that part down. Those two parts have been crimped together. Series 1, Episode 3. Oh, that episode. Is it just me? Tut tut crimping with pliers. I know, Chris, I know. I don't have a proper crimping tool at the moment. Again, I make do with what I've got. I never claimed that I do it I never claimed that I use the correct tools. Like I said, if I were you, I would invest in getting proper crimping tools and proper wire strippers. But hey ho, I have a degree that allows me to not do to do the cheaty ways. That's what you get degrees for, right? Coming back to Stargate, is it just me, or do all sci-fi series have to have a incredibly derogatory episode in the first series? Because SG-1's got that, and then TNG's got that one with the African tribes, and them. Oh yeah, the African tribe one. That I think they're planning on pulling now because of all of the protests. But hey ho, right. So I've crimped those down. So these rear ones should help do strain relief a bit, so that the strain on the cable is loaded through the insulation as opposed to the core. What I also like to do is add a bit of solder just to help make sure the wire's not going to go anywhere. That's why I have a soldering iron on, and that's why I got this wet, because I'm just going to quickly clean the tip of it. Grab my solder, which I have here, and solder away. Get a bit of solder in there, and that should just help hold the wire in place. So correct methodology for soldering is heat on, solder on, solder off, heat off. That's it. Flow quite nicely, sort out. I don't know who they're using to get those patches. Maybe that's why sometimes Stitch Me Up doesn't respond to messages. They're just on call for the US Air Force for their latest bout of buying stupid stuff. Right, you can see there I touched the insulation a bit with the soldering iron, so it's kind of withered up a bit, but that's fine. And then what we can do is get some heat shrink out of here, preferably red heat shrink, and we can run that over it. And now everyone's going to hate me because I don't have a hot air gun, so we're going to use the next best thing, which is a lighter. And the best way to do this is constantly keep the flame moving, don't hold it under a certain point, and make sure your flame is well below your part you're trying to heat. So don't put the part you're heat shrinking into the flame, because then you just end up with a lot of soot and can burn the plastic. And there you go, I'm just constantly moving it over, and as you can see, that heat shrink has gone down quite nicely. And that's our positive motor terminal done. Unit Taylor working overtime. Yep. I bet you it was on a Friday night. It was about 4:30. He was just about to clock off, go for a nice weekend fishing, and in comes Colonel Hammond. Is it no, General Hammond, and just there like, nope, no overtime, no holiday for you. You've got to make these patches, and you got to make them really cool. Oh, and by the way, we have this thing called a Stargate. Make it like that. So yeah, this is normally, if I was doing this as an edited video, this is where I would click my fingers and have the rest of this done. But alas no, we are watching this in live time. So for you guys, this is a lot like watching paint dry. So I'll just quickly do this one. So has anyone else got any questions or stuff they want to talk about? Yes. Oh, yeah. Heat shrink in flames gets very sooted. But yeah, I'm just part of the reason I'm showing you behind the scenes of actually doing tech work is to say, like, yeah, sure, there are the correct tools for it, but if you just want to do some basic maintenance or change out the wiring in your rifle or riff or whatever you want to call it, you can just use pliers and snips. Tell us more about your solder. This is some RS solder, stock number 4364881. This is some good stuff. Ooh, believe this is leaded. Oh, this would not pass modern standards. Contains lead. That explains a lot. Ooh, that's an offer. I mean, I'm planning on building a better workbench when I move, and hopefully having a proper, decent, standalone airsoft workbench, and then a computer to desk, so I don't have to keep switching between it, because at the moment this is also my not in office desk, so when I'm working from home I work here. In fact, once this is all done, I've got to tear this all down and get my computer all set up for tomorrow morning. Just fun. Yeah, that could be a problem. That would be why it works then, yes. One of my colleagues at work today was complaining because he's having to build up a load of wire connectors for me actually, and he was complaining because all of our stuff has to be compliant to standards, and so we can't use leaded solder, so he has to use unleaded, and all the rage I was getting out of him today about that. But yeah, we can try with my unleaded in a bit actually. At least this solder is better than the solder I started out with. As a student I had no money, so I stole my dad's plumbing solder, which obviously isn't the best doing wiring. There we go. That was nice and on. Lead solder is solder you can trust. The lead just helps it flow. Oh my god, that is some skill as you're making a trigger from that. That's brilliant. So, question for you guys. I have more tech work to do this week. One of them is going to be very painful. It's opening up the EBR again and putting a full cylinder in it and reshimming it. The other stuff that I have to do is I'm changing the gears in the SLR to 13:1s. Do you want me to keep live streaming this week, or shall I do it off camera and do a nice little edit version? Or do I do both and edit the live stream to make both the live stream and the abridged fancy one where it makes it look like I'm amazing? We'll see you soon, Aldred. Right. Let's put the heat shrink on that. Do more streams. More live. Okay, I will try and do more lives, but be aware that sometimes like shimming does take a while for me. I'm not negative airsoft where it's like, oh, then bing bang bosh, done. I do like to be a bit methodical and try and make it work as well as I can, and I usually end up cocking it up anyway. Like, there was one time I was shimming and I just got it finished. I opened it up to grease it and a load of the shims fell off and got mixed up, and I was just there like, I'm done. I'll put you back in any random order so long as it seems to work fine. Actually, it worked fine. It didn't seem to have any major resistance points, so I think I managed to get them back in roughly the right order. Just showing that. This is just me, or does the flame keep getting bigger in this lighter? Yeah, it does. That was on minimum light setting. More streams! Okay, I think I get the message, guys. You don't want me to do any more streams, alright? I will take that on board. Also, the more streams I do, the less time I get to edit other videos. So, I might have to balance that out. Also, I don't think Alice would be best pleased if I spend every evening live streaming with you guys, but hey ho. Right, so we've got those wires now made up to hook onto the motor, and here is our old wires. Now the reason I've got the old ones about is so I can see the negative one's got this kink in it. Yes, perfect shimming. That is a very good point. Like there is acceptable shimming, and then there is perfect shimming. Now perfect shimming, I can understand if you are really trying to build a very high spec gun and you're on the edge of power draw and you try and minimise the amount of resistance. But for most AEG stockish builds where you're just going for reliability, shimming, acceptable shimming is fine. Where there is a bit of wobble, there's not too much pressure on the gears, then you're all good. Like people make out that airsoft gearboxes are the most complex things in the world, and that you really need to work hard to get them to work well. And there's complete bollocks. Like they're very simple. They have 3 gears. There are 2 linear moving parts. It's not that hard. You just got to make sure that there is not going to be too much wear on your gears and that they mesh nicely, and that nothing is going to grind against each other, and then your gearbox should be fine. The biggest things is the biggest thing for performance really is making sure you match your cylinder to barrel ratio, and ideally match it also to the weight you're going to use. So if you're trying to get the best amount of performance out of your gun, you really need to know what weight BB you're going to use, what length barrel you're going to use, what diameter barrel you're going to use, because then you can spec your cylinder to the right size and get the best ratio between them, and therefore get the best shot-to-shot consistency. And you don't have to spend a bomb on upgrades. In fact, most of the parts in my DMR are the stock parts. It was just the only bits I changed out apart from now when I'm changing out the gears, I were changed out because they were old and weren't sealing properly. That's it. Anywho, enough of a tangent on that. So, we know the negative wire goes to the negative terminal of the motor. We can tell the difference between these two because one is coloured red. Can you focus on that? Apparently my camera has forgotten how focus works. There we go. So you can see one's got a red terminal, one's got an uncoloured terminal. That denotes the polarity of the motor. You also get one... Thank you, camera. Let me find another motor because I'm sure I've got one that has a different style. Oh no, the G&Gs all have the same style. Wow, who'd have thunk it? I don't have another motor to hand, but some motors will have a plus marked on the is it the bell? Yeah, the bell for the motor showing which one's which. So like for instance here there'd be a plus symbol on that red there to show that that's the positive terminal. So I'm going to route our negative one, which comes off this terminal. Now, pro tip, normally when you get a motor connector, they tend to slide quite easily on and off. What I do to help hold them on, should the AFE have a smaller cylinder or a ported one at least? Yes, technically it should. So it should have a 3/4 length one because it uses basically an M4 length barrel in it. Although the AFE does have a full length, an SR25 length cylinder, and that can be a bit of an issue because what's the point in making a really long cylinder to have a port like here? So the AFEs are quite over volumed, hence why they're quite a loud gun when firing, because your BB is leaving the barrel before the cycle is finished, so you're then getting quite a lot of air popping out after it. Things you could do in that case to match your air volume is short stroke the piston and gear set, so the piston doesn't get pulled as far, therefore you're reducing your cylinder volume by effectively not using all of your cylinder. It's the same with changing the with it being changed out from a 19 tooth to 15 tooth as the stock, like V2 V3 style piston. Not all the cylinder is being used now, so you're getting less air volume, and in fact it then uses a full length of cylinder as opposed to an extended length, which is the right sort of length for a 509mm barrel, which is what the stock standard L85s have. That was just a quick response to Mr. Walkie Warrior. Hello again, good sir. Now, I was in the middle of talking, wasn't I, about these are quite loose on motors. What I tend to do is when I get them first, I just crimp down the middle of them slightly, just so they add a bit more resistance on being pushed on. And if I have overcrimped them down, which sometimes you do, you just grab a pair of tweezers and pull them back out. That one has crimped on quite nicely actually. There we go. We're going to just have to gently bend this up because there's not all that much room at the back. So just, yeah, get that around like that. Then that will run up here and through the motor there. So it sits under the motor connection point. The motor connection point to the gearbox. And then we'll run off this way. So I like to do that just so I know where we are. Gearbox. And we'll just... like that, and we can put the motor back on permanently. It's quite a nice little design, that. Oh, I'm dreadfully sorry that I got talked over. Um, long story short, either go back and watch it in a minute, or yes, realistically it should have a ported cylinder, but they don't make ported SR25 length cylinders. So if you're really worried about getting your perfect volume ratio, uh, short stroke your piston and gear set. Oh, hi Mark. Anyway, how's the sex life? That is a quality crap film. Got my little toolbox here. Also, I'm really annoyed. This toolbox, I can't recommend it highly enough, but it's no longer on sale on Amazon, which is really annoying. Bullseye Country Sport is where I got my G&G greens from. I bought 5 on Friday. No, Wednesday last week. So they may have gone. Colonel Jack O'Neill said what? How dare he? Yeah, Bullseye Country Sport though. They hopefully have these. If not, I'm sure there will be there will be G&G greens coming into the country because they are quite sought after hop-up rubber. If you can't find those in stock, try finding Promi Purples. They tend to be quite good. I used one, had no problems with it. No. What? Whose inbox are you spamming with accents? Please don't spam my inbox with accents. Or do. I don't know if I'll laugh or cry. Speaking of TV show cock-ups with regards to guns, I was watching Ashes to Ashes the other week, and there was they were spying on a gun dealer, and the dude gave the client a gun, and he was like playing around with it, and they were looking at it, and they're like, I can't tell what make of gun it was, and it was very clearly a 1911. And then later they're back in the precinct, the police station, and the one that she's still trying to ID it, and one of them just leans over and looks at it and goes, "That's a Colt 1911." And I'm like, "Oh, good boy." Yes, Chris, if you can get G&G green hop-up rubbers, I recommend it because they are a good stock hop rubber. Although, for some reason, these ones came without nubs. I remember them distinctly coming with nubs, so if maybe they stock with and without nubs, maybe pick up some that have the nubs. Just saying. In terms of, where was I? Ashes to Ashes, yes. So, one of the coppers correctly IDs it as a 1911. Then later in the episode, Ballistics comes back, and they're like, Ballistics says it was a 9mm. And she's like, "Oh, does that?" The character's like, "Does that match the gun?" And the dude who identified it as 1911 was like, "Yeah, it does." I'm like, "Hang on a minute, 1911 is a 45 ACP, not 9mm." And that was me nerding out. I am dreadfully sorry, guys. Also, if you haven't watched it, Life on Mars, Ashes to Ashes, great series. Absolutely fantastic. Right, so that's the negative wire nicely run. Now put our positive wire on the gearbox. There are quite a few 1911 to 9mm. Yes, are we talking in real life or in the movie world? Also, I think the biggest gun weirdness I've seen is in Ant-Man, where the security guy clearly has a Glock, and then suddenly he's about to shoot Ant-Man, so Ant-Man sends loads of ants to stop the Glock from firing, and suddenly it has an external hammer that the ants stop from firing. Oh dear. Do I need to go find that photo of purple helmet and a dress? Can I get both of these wires to tuck through this gap? Probably not. So these are going to come across like that, and this one's going to run down here. And then I like to make sure the black runs on the top because it kind of hides it in the gun. Oh, Tom. I wouldn't say things like that. I'm sure someone's going to go get the Photoshop out. I don't mind the wiring on it. It's once you know where it needs to go, it's actually not too bad. You're right. The wiring on TM recoils tend to be a bit finicky, especially. Have you tried doing a 416 and M4 or 417 where you have to run the wires underneath the buffer tube latch bar part? Also, if you want to talk about crappy wiring, I bring to the table again the EBR M14 by G&G. I feel like I'm just slating on G&G at the moment. I do quite like G&G, but this gun, for some reason the wires have to run, the only space for them to run is exposed in the magwell. Because they designed the gearbox entirely for running the wires to the stock, and then went, oh, hang on, there's not really a battery space stock on the EBR. Ah, sod it, just run it through the magwell. Yeah, Chris, do you recognise this? You know the guy who bought this. Anyway, nice sidebar. So, running the wires through. And like I said, I like to run the red at the bottom so the black wire kind of hides it, so it's not as obvious in the TMH or lower receiver. Yes, it is. There's a lot of guns that are very, very much afterthought where we're going to run the wires. And I just yeeted that across the room. I'll get that in a moment. So, I know roughly where these are going to go. And I'm just going to grab the TMH. I'm not going to put it in, but I know, just so I know roughly where I need to cut my wires, which is about right, where do I want my MOSFET to sit? Probably here, so I'm going to cut them about here, just give me a bit of wiggle room, go through and just snip and snip. Excellent. Just going to tidy up these wires quickly. Change your screen to 105. No, 105 is pretty weak. That's just well, it should. 105 means 105 meters per second on a 0.2, or at least an M105 means that, which works out at about 345. So an M105 should be good. Although if you've got FPS loss, it's probably not the spring. If that's going in an AR, then you should be fine. Level 3 advanced in hand-to-hand combat. Damn, what does that even mean? Is that the same as being qualified expert marksman? It's a nice little bundled bit of red wire, black wire there. Also, welcome to the community, JX4. I hope you're enjoying it here. And if you're looking for more tech videos to watch and you've run out of stuff on my channel, trying to think of some good channels to recommend. Thin Brown Line is pretty good, although he tends to talk more about what he's done as opposed to showing you how to do it. Although I think he has got a couple up, and Purple Helmet's got a very good back catalogue of bits and pieces, and obviously AATV has some good discussion points and also has a very good guide on anatomy of a AR style rifle. Oh, this is a different build. What build is this one? I mean, you could stab a tribal leader in a knife fight. How do you standardise the test for that? Like, do they just have a load of tribal leaders on tap at the US Air Force close quarters training facility that they can just wheel out and be like, right, if you can stab this dude, you get level 4. Yeah, 105, or if you want to play it a bit safer, get an M100. Yeah, depending on how the gun is, sometimes you do get issues with springs being more or less powerful in them than they should be. Obviously, it's all subjective to the build, so I assume I'm nowhere have I had this confirmed. Oh, that's why I go in, because I've got the upper one. Nowhere have I had it confirmed, but I'm pretty sure that when they talk about their FPS or M100 being a 1 joule spring, that it'll be a .2 fired out of a standard M4, most likely. Because I'm actually, what was the first? Was the first M4, or was the first AEG that Tokyo Marine made an M4, or was it an M16? Because I'm assuming that would be the base gun that they'd base all of their claims off of. But I could be chatting bollocks there. I mean, I probably am. I'm just pontificating my ideas at the moment. Do I have any knowledge of upgrading gas blowback rifles? Very little. I mean, I have a gas blowback rifle. What do you want upgraded? Because there's a very, very good live stream that I watched a month or so ago, all around the myths of gas blowback guns, and over on AATV's channel, and they talk about this, and really you don't need to do too much work to a gas blowback gun. They tend to be pretty good out the box. The only things you could do is put MPAS in, or a flow restrictor disc. Oh, I just realised I was working a bit too off the camera there. As they are generally pretty good for sorting that sort of stuff. MPAS or flow restrictor disc to make sure your FPS is within sight limits. Other than that, it's really just a case of maintaining it, making sure it runs, and keeping it clean, and where it needs lubricating, lubricate. Again, I am nowhere near an expert in gas blowback rifles. I just have 1 or 2 that I use. So there's that. That's weird. Okay. So I'm just fitting this roughly in just to check that it all seems to run to the right sorts of places, and that looks pretty good. So the wires run right up to where I want them. Really, this is just a pass-through normally. Then passes up to battery, which goes in the handguard. But also, occasionally I do try and fit batteries in here if I want more batteries on me. Oh yeah, FAMAS, of course. The FAMAS was the first one to come out. So, sorry, that was over dramatic. So does that mean that an M100 spring should, in a stock FAMAS setup, give you 1 joule with a .2, or does it not? Actually, FAMAS and M16 probably have the same barrel length. Who knows? It's all it's all rough in it, ready anyway, and springs tend to vary, even between even inside of batches, and obviously the cheaper springs you buy, the larger the variance between two springs of the same type there will be probably, and also the quality will obviously be less. I have been stocking up on ASG springs. They tend to be quite good. They tend to be fairly consistent. Again, it's experiment around, see what springs tend to give you the right FPSs, and stick with those. And then if they go balls up, then go grab a load more brands of springs and see which one seems to work the best for you, and then stick with that. That's what a lot of people tend to do, but really no two builds are ever going to be the same. As much as you try, they're just not. Anyhow, right, where were we? So these wires are running to the right sort of place, so we can pull these out now. And okay, 4 to get back to that. Again, the release there is really useful for getting that gearbox up. Sometimes you've got to pull the wires out to just help get it all out. And away she goes. Take the lower away for the time being. Yes, the M16, that seems to do far too many FPS. I think I figured that one out. I don't think it applies any hop until kind of like the last quarter of the hop. So you're basically just draw piping these BBs down there as fast as possible, which is alright, I guess. But I think that's going to be part of the weak point of the gun, is that it needs a hop change if you want to use any sort of sensible weight ammo for them. You know what, I'm actually going to use my wire strippers because I'm trying to make this one as fancy as possible for you guys. So, get that on there, pull that off. We probably want a bit more than that. But yeah, spring variance is a true thing. I quite like AK to M4's approach, where he will batch test. When he gets a new batch in, he'll run a couple of them through a stock setup that he's got and tell you the FPS on them and the variance on them, which is a nice thing to see. But obviously that does take a fair amount of time to do. Quick change helps that. Woo, more stripping! Indeed, everyone loves a good strip, don't they? So here's a question for you guys. Would any of you trust, after watching me do some tech work, would any of you actually trust me to do tech for you on one of your guns? Or has this scenes of violence and destruction put you off forever? Mine was doing alright up to 2.8, we need a hop change to go any further. Away from you sexy thing, I believe in miracles. Oh no, I'm going to get copyrighted, aren't I? So copyright material. You sexy thing. Oh, another tip, when doing wiring and choosing connectors and putting them on your batteries and such, in case of Deans, whatever you do, don't put the male connector on the batteries. You always want to go for the safest enclosed connector on the power source side, and you can go for the exposed side on the what I call the sink side, the side that draws the current, because when it's disconnected, if these two short out, big whoop, there's no current there to go through them, whereas if these are on the batteries and these short out, suddenly you've got a short-circuited battery, and if it's a LiPo, that could be bad news. Oh, Rick, you bastard. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah. I'm never going to live that down, am I? I'm never going to live that down. I just need a minute. You'd get a new upper eventually, alright? Eventually. One day. Right. Oh, sorry. I thought there was something going weird. I was just... It's because I was watching the YouTube stream and not the OBS stream, so it was like 30 seconds behind. Oh. See, that's the thing. Should I start offering to people, to like subscribers, if they want tech work done, to send it to me or not? Because for me, a lot of the time, I find tech work is very therapeutic. I used to do it at uni when I was stressed out about coursework. I'd be like, you know what, taking a break, and I'm just gonna... Don't need to do it, but I'm gonna go shim my gearbox because I want to, and it's a nice way to relax, for me at least. That may sound very weird. Right, shall I go get my unleaded solder and see how it works? Ah, but Chris, I'm not a store. That's the difference. I'm well aware that tech, like, actually, Negative Airsoft did a very good video on the whole thing of if you're a professional tech, you get one gun that comes back with a broken part. You've basically lost all of your profit on all of your kind of markup on it, because yeah, well that's it. And it's the same with stores. You say you buy 10 rifles in and you get one that's a dud, then you're going to have to spend your time fixing that dud and getting it back up to the point where you can resell it. But that time and effort is going to eat up pretty much all the margin that you would have made on most of those 10. So I understand that, but as a hobbyist who just enjoys doing tech work, I don't know if it's too bad. Though I need to sort out PayPal, because PayPal just shut down my account because they figured out that I set it up before I was 18, which I didn't realise you weren't allowed to do. Despite me now being 20 something. I'm just trying to remember. That is a very good idea, actually. Good shout, Tom. That is a good one. Chris, would you be up for doing a live stream to chat about hobby tech versus store tech? Because I know your teching style is very much you don't do upgrades, you don't do fancy stuff. It's if your gun is broken, I will fix it for you. As opposed to me tends to, well, A, gets things working, but also if people want upgrades done, I'll do them. I'm going to stop using this solder, not because it's unleaded, but because look at the thickness of this. This is a pain. Why? This is almost like lead pipe soldering. What's my thoughts on XT60s over Deans? XT60s would be safer, that's for sure. In fact, I do have an XT60 somewhere floating about. Here's an XT60 connector. It even says it on it. What? XT60. And there are a lot more. Well, this connector is a lot more. Well, it's about the same in terms of shielding for the battery connector, but the male connector that goes into this is actually a shroud, so it fits round and lines up with the step on this, and it has proper barrel plugs, so you're actually going to get better surface contact on it. I would say the XT60s are better, but obviously Deans are more widespread at the moment. Yes, that is true. But even though Deans are still quite chunky and won't fit through all sorts of holes, XT60s are bigger. Chris, you're a battery connector aficionado. Are XT40s smaller? And can they still carry the current of, like, can they carry a spike of like 50, 60 amps? We now wait with bated breath to see his response. I realised I did that, but didn't explain what I was doing there. So this is called tinning the wire. So basically I've just soldered a bit onto it to give it a bit of form. It makes it easier when joining to have everything tinned beforehand. I'm going to switch back to my leaded thin stuff, which I'm quickly running out of, and I'm dreading the day of running out of this stuff. Oh no, there it is. XT30, 30 amp rated, not suitable for airsoft. There we go, you've heard it. Heard it here, guys. So XT60s are really what you need to go for, and they are quite chunky. But if you're putting them in rifles that you don't need to worry about fitting it through small spaces, XT60s are good. But I think Deans are probably the best all-rounder at the moment. And just make sure that you keep an eye out for that tab bending up. Right. So I'm just going to go back to tinning this wire. That's a bit too much on there. Let's clean my tip. So what's everyone been up to today? Is it everyone back at work yet, or are you guys still furloughing it, or have you been binge watching Stargate, Star Trek, or any of the other sci-fis we talked about? I mean, we were talking about sci-fi just then. We didn't even bloody mention Battlestar. Now that is a sci-fi. EC3s. Chris, you're really pushing those EC3s, aren't you? Hang on. For those of you who don't know, let me find an image of an EC3. EC3 connector. Okay, so they're similar in style to the... Oh, editing Rat Pack video. Excellent. Boom. So, EC3s, what? They're similar in style to the XT60s, but what, about the same size as Deans? Yeah, yeah. Anvil, you hit on the head there with. Oh, not Anvil. Sorry, Thin Brown Line. Mark, you've hit on the head. Dean's a much better current carrier than Tamiya. How, Chris, are EC3s interchangeable with Deans? Is that what I'm seeing in that lower image? That one. Oh dear, we've got onto that talk. Yes, Battlestar Galactica. Right. Battlestar Galactica is amazing. Like, after the series started airing, they were invited to give talks in the UN because their points in it. It was so good. I love that series. So good. Oh dear. Right, on with the wiring. So. Tinning. Let's just give this a proper little bit of tinning again. Okay, that one's done. Bit clamped, but here. Probably go EC2s, right? Well, I think we can agree that the general upgrade standard for battery connectors for airsoft is XT60s or T-plug, as a lot of people call it. In fact, there is the whole T-plug initiative, which plus Starbuck, plus bloody Starbuck. What do you hear, Starbuck? Nothing but the rain, sir. God, I need to watch Battlestar again. In fact, actually, I love Battlestar so much that one of the adverts that I made for Supac, one of the video adverts I made for it, used the Battlestar Galactica version of All Along the Watchtower, because it's just such a good song. Such a shame it got canned and they had to rush Series 4. But yeah. Who would win in the fight, Starbuck or Sam? Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough call, Tom. Oh. Hang on, are we talking hand to hand, gun to gun, or ship to ship? Because they were both pilots. Actually, I'm not sure if Sam was a fighter or if she was a ground attack. They never really say. But Starbuck in a Viper versus Sam in a oh, are they X302? No, yeah, X302. Oh, that'd be a tough one. Ah, okay. All right, that's there you go. We're getting proper technology there from Chris on connectors. Right. So now, while we're talking about connectors, I'm going to tin the two connectors on the Deans, and rather nicely on the Deans, they do actually mark the polarity on them. So negative on the stem and positive on the cross. So that's useful to note. So what do you guys think? Do you think the industry will eventually shift over to Deans as standard, and then we can look at making XT60 or EC3s as the kind of premium hipster? Oh, I use these as my connectors for airsoft. Or do you think we're going to be cursed with Minitan as the stock connector forever? I think it'd be awesome if we could do one. Is your internet fast enough and stable enough to live stream for you to do a video call from your office? You might need to talk to your tech companies nearby and ask them. Oh wait, hang on. Oh, that's hot. Toasty. Right, so I'll say it again, and I've said it 100 times before. Make sure you put your heat shrink on before you solder them on, because the amount of times I solder stuff and then realise I need to put the heat shrink on too damn high. So, what are we going to do? Bring that round like that. Exactly. So you heard it here first. That's what's going to. This is my prediction. We're going to eventually move to Deans or T-plug as standard, and then we'll have the next craze of connectors, and it might be EC3s. It might be something else. At the moment, I think it's more widespread going to be XT60s, but who knows? Or we're going to get the proper hipster retro bunch going, I want it back as Mini-Tam. I want Mini-Tams back. And that'll be the whole push for Mini-Tams, which I think will be quite funny. So, what I'm just trying to do is make sure the wires don't twist as much as possible so that they're actually sitting in their naturalish rest positions. have Spectre start doing them as standard? I'd I don't know if I'd consider that as a manufacturer doing them as standard, because aren't Spectre just buying in OEMs and then doing upgrades as their um, like touch on it? So I would consider Spectre as more of an upgrade house than a OEM manufacturer. I don't know if others would agree with me on that. Yeah, Chris, now on the head. This is the sad truth with airsoft. It's all about cost and making it as cheap as possible. But then again, that's because players demand guns to be cheap. Like, people say airsoft is an expensive hobby, and you can totally make it an expensive hobby. But really, the primary source of airsoft is guns. That's the airsoft replicas. Riffs, guns. I say guns, they're not actual guns, YouTube. These are airsoft gun replicas. But people aren't willing to pay the prices for the higher quality parts, and then are shocked when they pay 120 quid for a gun. £180 for this is insane for the amount of stuff that's in it. But it's like, realistically, we should be paying a lot more for the amount of stuff that goes into this. Like, of course, they're going to be cheaping out as much as they can, so I can see the joined seam lines in the plastics and in the metals where they cast these and probably mim them and stuff. Tom is much more knowledgeable on the actual manufacturing of parts, but they will be cutting corners to try and get the cost down as much as possible. When really we should, if you want the quality of airsoft to improve, you've got to be willing to pay more for it. That's the simple fact of life. And it's a shame because people until airsoft as a whole are willing to spend the money, companies are not going to start making much more expensive stuff. Exactly, Rick, you're nail on the head there. Originally, there wasn't a cheap; it was just TM. But as the hobbies become more mainstream, people are obviously wanting to get into it for cheaper, which, I mean, there's no bad thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to get cheap stuff. I'm just saying that the higher end market isn't really there because there isn't enough demand for the higher end market. Tom's covered this quite a lot, and it really is. It is a race to a bottom. But I mean, the Cymer is a perfect example. It's got an ECU in it, albeit quite a dumb ECU, but an ECU. It's got a quick change spring guide in it. It's got a metal receiver, and it's pretty well made for 180 quid. It's insane for it. Obviously, I can't comment about the reliability and the range because I haven't been able to test either of those. But like that is unheard of. I mean, I paid what, like 300 odd quid for this the G&G 4 years ago, and I mean, this version doesn't have an ECU in it. Like this is I'd consider to be one of the higher end guns. Sure, it's not a recoil, but it's certainly up there, getting towards the price of recoils. It's G&G's top tier, and this didn't have that in it. Like, there's a lot of features in that aren't in this. It's like they are really gouging the bottom out of airsoft at the moment, and it may seem like a good thing, but it may not, because unfortunately, sometimes it will be people racing to the bottom by cloning other people's designs, which I understand. Like the need to, because people don't want to pay the high end prices for it. But then if no one buys the higher end stuff, they're not going to keep innovating. Then again, if you then start overcharging and people can buy a clone for cheaper, and the clone is just as reliable, then maybe you need to look at your price markup, especially if you openly claim that you've already made back your manufacturing costs several times over and are now just making pure profit. But hey ho, that's another discussion for another time. Oh, I can't have that discussion because the person is in jail. Oh wait. Yeah, it's interesting. Who's making the money? Oh wait, no one's making the money. Other than the retailers that really overmark up prices. Is it? Maybe that's something we should do. We should have a chat between a couple of us about the retail side of things and the costs in general, and like all of the hidden aspects that a lot of people don't actually think about, because for a lot of people airsoft is a hobby, but for other people airsoft is entirely a mode of living, and I mean it has to be, or otherwise how are people going to be able to buy stuff and run games? It'd be an interesting thing to sit down and have a chat. I mean, we kind of did it when I came and visited the Stalkers. We had a bit of a chat about it, but I mean, we sat and chatted for over an hour, and I had to cut it down quite a bit. It'd be interesting to revisit that properly. Absolutely, Rick. This is something that's been said time and time again. Because they've got the V2 gearbox and they've got the receiver patterns, it's very easy to churn out an AR receiver with some either a different stock or a different rail on it and different barrel length, as opposed to design anything from the ground up. And we can kind of see that at the moment with, again, I'm going to keep saying G&G. With G&G, they were bringing out the Lee Enfield. They've now stopped the development of that for the time being. And are focusing on things like the ARP9 and the ARP556. It's all the same internals. It's just a slightly different lower receiver and slightly different mag, and it's the same thing they've done. And then they're doing the same thing with the AK platforms. They're making the AK9mm. Amazes me that open day prices haven't gone up. It's true, I guess. So for like woodland places, has the cost of renting woodland gone up? That is the question. Out of interest, what do you mean demanding more and more from open days? Like, absolutely. I think I think this whole COVID lockdown, if sites are gonna reopen but obviously limit player numbers, then they're not going to be able to make as much profit off of the charges that they're making. So either they're going to scale back the number of staff they have at sites, or, which is already normally fairly limited, or they're going to have to raise their costs of running, which people may not like. No, people are always cheap. As soon as you set out an initial price, if you change from that, people will get pissy. As I found out when I first estimated I could probably maybe do the EK3 rails for X price, and then realised actually no, I hadn't considered a whole load of stuff because I've never done this before, and people were upset that I had to bump up. We had to bump up the price because we had to factor in a whole load of other bits like that for one thing. But hey, that's just how it goes. Everyone wants everything as cheap as possible because they want to be as money safe as possible, which is understandable. But also, you got to remember that by you saving as much as possible, you're decreasing the amount that the person you're getting a service from is getting, and obviously then. Yeah, it all goes round in a circle. Then they're not going to be able to spend as much. They might not come to whatever business you have and spend money there when they could have, and therefore you've actually bit in the hand that feeds you, kind of. Weirdly, these heat shrinks that were designed for these Dean's connectors seem to be not heat shrinking tight enough to not slide around on these wires. So I'm just going to see if I can get to heat shrink anymore. It might just be me being an idiot and not heat shrinking enough. Out of interest, does that last lot about charging rates and increasing stuff make any sense, or have I just been rambling bollocks? would people pay more if they're getting a more involved game? Well, that is an interesting one. I mean, people will pay a fair amount of money for certain sites. Like the mall used to be, I think it was like 40 or 45 quid a game day, and then really it'd work out that the amount of time you actually spent playing would be a lot less than if you'd gone to another site. And so on. Ooh, interesting. Absolutely. This is the thing. If you're trying to cut costs to get stuff down, then they're going to have. Yeah, if you're not willing to spend the money, they're going to have to cut the money somewhere to save costs. For instance, because I knew people wouldn't want to be willing to pay more than say $250 for the EK3 rails as standard. We're not going to be able to get the gas blocks included, which is not an integral part. But hey ho, that's what we had to do to get the cost to the point where people would be willing to pay for it. And we're trying to keep the cost down as much as possible. Plus, without the gas blocks, you can fit bigger batteries in. That's just an example. Again, I feel like I'm talking about my products too much, when in actual fact I'm only talking about them because I know about them, because funnily enough I'm involved in making the products that I make. Hey ho. Right. Look at that, we've got a nice Dean's connector on there and the heat shrinks on nicely. It's the right way round. Now I can grab the MOSFET, which is kind of sitting here buried under all of this. Chuck in the signal wires. Grab a nice battery. Yeah, I remember that, and now it all seems to change. I'm not sure why that's changed. Although, I think the site I play, or I tend to play, Combat Airsoft, is very much geared up towards getting new players into the sport. So I think they go back to the breaks because that's what paintball's like. Paintball is very much short play, then go back, and they are also a paintball site. Not the same areas. They have a paintball site and a airsoft site in the same bit of woods, but in different parts of the woods. And I think for newer players, it's actually quite nice to get that break because then they can be like, oh my, and talk about it quite a lot. But yeah, I completely agree. With the older site, I used to play Combat South back when I was down south. Funnily enough, it's in the south. Great little site. They do 2 halves, a morning and an afternoon. And it's great because you come back from the morning game and you're feeling, pumped up but exhausted, and then there's just a full-on lunch, like burgers, sausages, potatoes, beans, cheese. Oh my god, I miss Combat South. That being said, Combat Airsoft has some great lunch options as well. There we go. That's working nicely. Fairly decent cycle time on that. Excellent. Let's just check this all fits and works nicely. Just going to pull the blowback unit all the way back just so it doesn't get caught and goes flying about the time. It means I can't have a snooze in the bush. Maybe that's why they do it. I think some sites also run short games because I've heard a lot of marshals get a bit upset, and I know Andy from UCAP used to be like this at the sandpit. They would plan this whole game and have all these cool like complex objectives to do, and it'd be all over the place. It'd be like, oh, you need to go to the downed helicopter, and there's going to be drugs there, and then you got to transport back and check it into your base, and like whoever gets the most drugs at the end wins. And then you'd just be like, well, I planned all of this stuff and only four of each team went out and actually did that, and everyone else just pissed around the buildings doing fights around the buildings. And so I think they just gave up in the end, and they were like, fine, if you want to fight around the building, we'll just do 20 short games if you deathmatch around the building. It's just the style of players. I guess people people change how they want to play depending on what games they're playing. Because now, like, if you think about it, lots of people were like, "Oh, does anyone do battle royale style airsoft games?" Because I really want to do battle royale. And whenever I go to combat airsoft, there will always be people like, "Oh, can we do a battle royale game? Can we do a battle royale game?" And then they'll end the day early, and they'll make everyone put their guns down, and they'll be like, "Right, we'll get all the rental guns together and lay them around the field, and then you all got to go find the guns." And I'm just like, I don't want to play battle royale at the moment. I came here to play with my guns, test my guns out, and do bits with my guns. I don't want to be running around the field looking for that. It's like, don't get me wrong, it's really fun when you do it with a group of mates. So we used to do what we called Members Day. Chris will probably jump up at Members Day. So at the end of the year, end of the term, about this time actually, normally, we'd hire a site for the day and we'd go have fun. It'd be a stupid day. First half we'd actually play like some proper like attack defense games and that sort of stuff, and maybe do some photo shoots to get some publicity material for the next year and stuff. Then the second half of the day it'd be like, get your fancy dress on and we'll go do some stupid games and have some fun. And there was still a memory seared into my mind of one of my male mates dressed up as Harley Quinn. Not the original Harley Quinn, as in Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad. That's an image I'm never not going to see. Anyway, this is all back together, so this should hopefully cycle fine. Look at that. And hang on, those were the days. Doing Battle Royale then was quite fun. Absolutely. TTT is another great one. That's great fun to do with a group of mates. And it's really fun because you've got all your friend dynamics and you're all there questioning everyone and it's all good fun. But if you're doing it with a bunch of randos, you don't know them and it's not the same. Airsoft skirmish open days should have proper skirmishes, not stupid video game inspired battle royales and TTTs and stuff. They should be objective based. I mean, in my opinion, they should be objective based and be like attack, defend, or 3-stage attack, or the capture these objectives and move them about. And those are really good fun games to do in groups. Anyway, before getting on that rant, I was just going to show this. You can, because I've got the side panel off here, you can actually see how semi-auto cutoff works in an AEG. So we push forwards, it makes contact, gun cycles, the trigger carriage there jumps up and jumps back under that spring tension there. And then as your trigger actuator comes back, it then pops down back into position where it can push the trigger forwards. Like that. And then, that's a bit hard to show, if I, with my middle finger back here, I'm just going to push down, this is the cut-off lever for the gun, and I'm just pushing it down so it's now in the full auto position. So if I try and get some light through there, oh there we go, see that there? See that arm moving up? That's the cut-off lever. That's normally what jumps up and pushes the carriage back, but in full auto you push that up, and now when the carriage goes forward, that doesn't interfere with the trigger carriage and allows it to fire full auto. But then obviously when it's down it does. And that's how semi and full auto works in an AEG. Don't ask about 3-round bursts, especially mechanical ones. I don't know. Yeah, and so just looking at Mark's comment about the mix between them, I don't mind some short games. Like again, Combat South was really good at this. The last game, if they normally did 2 big long games in the morning, and if they finished one early, they would do a like capture the flag, 1 life thing, and then if you die, cool, go back, start heading back to save zone for lunch. That's fine. That's a 15-minute filler game, and it's still a good game because it's an objective base, and that one you've actually got to think carefully about where you're going to go and make sure and try and not get hit. Or if you're smart and hungry, you purposely plan to walk into the line of fire so you can get shot, so you can go back and be the first in the queue for food. Pro tip. Anyway, that's the wiring room done. That's now nice and happy. I would chrono it now, but it's getting quite late, so I don't want to fire this any more than I have. So let's drop this all back in the gun and put the gun back together. Tokyo Maru Witchcraft. Oh my god, yeah, that was. They get all the pixie dust for a month and pour it into one gun. Yeah, and that's another good use of quick games is splitting teams and marshalling. Although I always find it weird. So one of the games that normally gets used to split teams is, oh, we're gonna take four random players and they're gonna be it's like a zombie game, and then see how many they get and in 10 minutes. And normally if it's about half the players, oh, the half that have been got are going to be one team, the half that haven't are going to be the other. Normally that means, for me, either you get all of the people who like to push and be at the front in one team, or you get all of the people who know how to position and get a good defensive position, fall back and not get hit in one team. So sometimes you kind of get a bit of an imbalance there. But I mean, sites keep using it, so it must be a pretty good way of sorting out teams. What would you guys say is your favourite skirmish game? Like, if you're going to go to a skirmish, what game would you want your site to run while you're there? I think mine is like a rolling. I love a good rolling attack defend, and one that goes through very different terrains. So it's not all just attack defend these buildings or attack defend this and that and this. They really mix it up. I love those types of games. Right, that's dropped in. I have found that there is differences in G&G. So mine is a bit hard to get my gearbox past these lugs and in. Others just drops in a lot easier. Others are a bit harder. It's obviously there's going to be some slight differences. So I just fit my signal wires into the wire trap there. So you can see there are two sprung teeth there that hold that in place. Oh, no one going to answer my questions. Oh, there we go. Rolling pushback gives people multiple lives without constant respawning, returning to the same positions. Feels like something is actually happening. Absolutely, those are my favourites as well. Those are great. Those are great fun. In fact, most of the gameplay videos that I've got up are from rolling attack defend ones. Although not all of them, I tend to take. Normally they do them in 3 phases, and I tend to take one of the phases and use that. But yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than when you're just getting to the end of an attack, and you've got your whole team just kind of pushing up and clearing through that position. I always find that so much fun, so exhilarating. I know that sounds really stupid and sad, but that's why I play airsoft. Not if I get loads of kills, just that final push where we all roll up and clear through and everyone's searching and doing that. Capture and extract are also very good ones. I do like those. They are good fun. I also like it where they give you a bit more freedom with where they're playing, and so you've actually got a bit of ability to have a bit of a think about where you're going to go and how you're going to try and get to these things and hold the objectives. 4 corners. What site is that, Keldon? I'm sorry if I butcher your names on here. Just to point out, I am dyslexic, so I do cock up with words quite a lot. So I originally said I was going to flat hop my barrel and rubber, but I'm not, because Tom knows about this. I'm thinking about doing a little barrel comparison test, and I want to have G&G greens in all of them. So I'll leave that G&G green stock. Oh, yeah. Not often do I, but when I do, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy thinking about what I'm going to do. Right, that was me just unplugging my soldering iron, because don't leave your soldering iron plugged in. That is a bad idea. Just while that's cooling it down, I'll give it a bit of a clean. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So Combat South used to do. They called it D-Day, and it was a 3-point rolling attack, and you had the village first, then the bunkers, and then what they called the farm. But the village was a massive area with a load of buildings. What they tended to do was they would hide a mortar tube somewhere within the one of the buildings, one of the outlying buildings in the village, and it was, if you could find the mortar tube and get it back to your landing craft, you could then set up a mortar and blow up a building with the defenders in, and effectively take them out the take that building out, so no one could use that building, which was quite a cool idea. Or sometimes it was you had to find the radio pack, so you could radio into Prince of Wales or Rodney or whatever it was off the shore, ready to do a shore bombardment and take out one of the buildings. They always found ways to spice it up and add in these little extra objectives, which you didn't necessarily need to do, but was a fun little side challenge if you wanted to, which I always thought was a nice little touch. And especially for people who go and play every weekend, it just mixes it up a bit. Yeah, absolutely, Rick. What you meant to do is you die, right? You get hit and you go, oh, that's weird. Where did I get hit from? I know. I'll just go back there, and because I know I got hit, I'll definitely get them. And then you walk back there and you just get hit again straight away. And then people do that several times over, and they get really pissed off. But anyway, go have a smoke, drink coffee, and take photos. That is. I agree with the drink coffee and take photos. I'm not one for smoking, but hey, whatever floats your boat. It's your weekend. You can do whatever you want. It's your day. I do enjoy going along and taking photos. It's really interesting watching airsoft from a different perspective. Just seeing like how blind people are, actually. The amount of times I've seen someone who's not in the best amount of camouflage just sit in a bush, and people just not notice them, and then rack up the hits. It's unbelievable. And then also people for a slightly worse side of things. Like, I remember watching one of our mates who I know is a very, very honourable player, and he was there and he was behind a tree, and there was a guy shooting at him. And I was standing next to the marshal while watching this. This guy was absolutely yelling at him, having a massive go at him about not taking his hits. And we were watching these BBs hit the tree about 10 feet up in the air. He's like, I've put a whole mag into him and he hasn't taken them. I'm like, well, they're going 10 feet above. Like, don't shout and cry about it unless it's 100% you know you're hitting them. Because 99% of the time in airsoft, you're going to be thinking you're hitting them, and yeah, you're not going to be hitting them. Sorry, I just read Arctic Frenzy's comment. The first thing I had was go and die. Who said that? Did I say that? I don't remember saying go and die. Right, I'll switch over to to the main cam now. Whop. So, putting the gun back together. For you wondering, this is my prototype A3. So wires are nicely tucked in, the spring is in, everything is in place, out the way. Put that in. Out, the spring is popped out, like I say they do. Obviously there's no inner barrel in this, I'm just making sure everything else fits. The inner barrel is still on my table. Now, one of the questions I keep getting asked is what upgrades have I done to my L85 and what do I recommend doing in terms of cleaning it and such. So giving it a re-grease every so often when you notice the FPS and the consistency is dropping is basically the main thing I do. I also do it to my hop as well. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like 63 meters, 60 meters plus, you're not seeing those BBs. You might be thinking you're seeing them, but you're probably not. Yes, this is a very nice A3 lookalike. Although this one is not quite as accurate as the later EK3 editions. Go check out Super 5s for those, because they will be available soon, hopefully. I look at Chris in the comments. Yeah, that's the gun back together without the hop unit in. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Everyone thinks they're amazing shot, but it's a BB. There's only so much stability it's got. Bear in mind, everything we're firing is less than a gram in weight. Anything can spin those off. Like, I remember getting really pissed off because I swear I had this dude dead to rights. Turns out, no, I was just hitting a leaf 30 meters away and it was sending it off. You hope so. Hope so for soon as well. Hopefully soon, guys. We are working our butts off on this one. But yeah. That's a good question. About upgraded guns. And do people think you're cheating? It's an interesting one because a lot of people think that upgrading guns mean you've got so much more superior range, but you really, really don't. Most of the time, if someone's shooting at you with a one dual gun and you've got a one dual gun that you've upgraded a bit, you're talking more about maybe 2, 3, 5 meters really additional range. Tom will probably jump in and say actually it's more like 10, but really it's your consistency that goes up. So your shot to shot placement. So true. So true, Keldon. BBs don't agree with me. But yeah, so a lot of the times they can actually engage you at that range. It's just you already need to put down, say, 3 shots to hit them. They have got to put down like 30 shots. Yeah, indeed, Chris. That's why I have a whole box of like the original prototypes. This one unfortunately broke. And some earlier ones. Some early bits. Yeah, that's something I definitely want to do. I really want to get into the 10 to 20 meters better. Okay, all right. No, I'll yield to that. You've done much more empirical testing on this than I have. What? So is that same FPS but upgraded hot rubbers and upgraded barrels and upgraded FPS? Not FPS, upgraded consistency. Because I found a lot of the times you do get that slight range boost, but it's really your effective range is boosted, not your maximum range. So it is the quantity of BBs that you need to fire as opposed to the so your quantity of BBs you need to fire to get a hit is lower than the quantity of BBs an unupgraded gun will need to fire to hit you. Although that being said, I thought my DMR was performing badly because I'd changed the spring in it, and it turns out I misread my chrono and it was actually 100 FPS lower than I thought it was, hence why it was only doing 60 meters as opposed to the 80 it should have been doing. But yeah, sometimes if you can sit there and consistently outperform people, they do get a bit pissed off. Although marshals tend to notice people with better performing guns and will understand that they're better performing guns and know, like, well, as in once they've checked them out and seen them, then they will know. Yeah, so as Tom has rightly said, the biggest upgrade you can do is heavier weight. So the lightest I use in anything at the moment is 2/8, which is probably not the smartest thing to do, but yeah, I tend to use 2/8 in 1 dual-ish guns and then 3/6s in the DMRs. Even though 3/6s at 1 dual was still beautiful. Right, what was I going to talk about? Oh yeah. So, in terms of maintenance and what I do on the regular, the biggest thing I do is just clean the barrel, to be honest. Every game day, either after I get back from one or before I go, I will clean the barrel. A tip I got off a mate once was he always carries a pack of cigarette filters. Yeah, carries a pack of cigarette filters with him. Because in case he forgets to clean his barrel, all he can do is at the start of a game day. I don't recommend this, but as a if you want to quickly clean it, get one of these, ram it down your barrel, fire it off in a safe direction, and it will just clean some of the crap out. I tend to go for one of these soaked in white spirit, or my thin brown line forget me juice, and I'll run it through my barrel to soak it, and then either use kitchen towel or microfiber cloth to cut up and run through and clean it. So if you are just looking to clean your barrel quickly, you don't even have to take it out the gun. You can just leave it in the gun and use your cleaning rod and just run down and back out. What I tend to do is take it out the gun if it's easy enough to do. Most of my AEGs are fairly easy to get your barrel out. I'm trying to think of ones that aren't. M14's a bit of a pain. The King Arm fouls are an absolute ball ache to take out the barrel. The SLR is much easier. Just making sure I'm not missing anything in the comments. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't. Do you really want precision out of a support weapon? Like, really, you want to have things that you can just get a good dispersion on, so you can suppress an area as opposed to a point. Unless, of course, you're using a Bren or an LSW, which were, well, a Bren was designed a bit more for point suppression. Yeah, filters aren't fiberglass. They're actually, well, at least these ones aren't. I mean, AK2M4 recommends them. I'm pretty sure they're just cotton. It doesn't actually say on them. You don't need precision when you carry 2-box mounts. Silicon oil, that's an interesting one because like Tokyo Marui manuals, as Tom will say, is silicon. Spray silicon into your hot chamber and on your cleaning rod and clean it. It's generally considered don't use silicon because it will affect your hop-up rubbers and it will make it less grippy and therefore less consistent. To be honest, if you're if you're gonna clean your barrel, your basic bet is get a bottle of white spirit and either use your kitchen towel or use microfiber cloth that you cut strips off. I'm sure I've got some here somewhere. No, I don't know where I put my spare microfiber cloth. But yeah, you cut a strip of it, put it through your eyelet here, twist it round, and then keep twisting in that twist direction and run it all the way through your barrel and back out. Ideally, you want to know how long your barrel is and mark on your on your cleaning rod how deep to go before you get to the nub, because you don't want to clean past the nub. You also want to make sure your hop is all the way off when you do it. It's all the way off when you do it. And then run it back out. If you want to give it a more thorough clean, what I tend to do is take it out, take the hop unit off, as we shall do. Hop. Slide it off. Put that up somewhere. Again, don't want my nub to fall out. Here's my hop up rubber. I tend to take the hop up rubber off when I do it. Yeah, they will, and I think that's just because it's left over from the old. Well, like that's what TM always recommended. Oh, this hop up rubber is still pretty supple. I think this is a fairly new hop up rubber. Because I've experimented with all sorts of types of hops in this. In fact, this used to have an R hop in it, hence why there's a bit of crumminess around the barrel there. While I'm here, I might as well talk about servicing the hop. But anyway, I tend to take the barrel out clean and then work through it. And the other thing I tend to do is pull from the window down, so you're pulling the dirt away from the hop area, because I know it's true on real rifles, but apparently the throat, which is the bit closest to the breech, is the most important part of the barrel that you should have the cleanest. I'm assuming it goes throat, crown, and then middle. And I'd say the same with airsoft. I'd clean the throat as much as possible and try and make this area here as clean as possible, so put them through that way. Why did I remove the R-hop? Well, because I hope Mark's not still on the chat. Originally I had the, because it's an SR25 length cylinder and stuff, I had the L85 set up as a DMR, and then I decided I didn't need it anymore, and I actually wanted to see how good it performed with just a standard G&G green in it, and it's pretty bloody good, to be honest. It will reach out and touch people out to the 50-60 metre mark when I use it right. But again, I feed it good quality ammo. I use ASG 2.8s in it. Yeah, absolutely. Badly cut down barrels can cause issues, but apparently the hop window, then the crown, then the middle of the barrel is how I like to think of it in terms of what you should focus on quality-wise. So I like to clean barrel down, because then really you're moving most, if there's any dirt being left, it's probably going to be left in the middle. But really you want to try and clean it until you can't see any parts. And what I tend to do is I have a nice big studio light here, but I like to look into the light, not go to the light, look into it and look for parts. So this barrel is actually fairly filthy at the moment. In fact, this barrel is probably on its way out. It looks like it's got a fair few scratches in it, but hey ho. But yeah, so you run it through, and I would do probably one run through with white spirit, and then 5 or 6 dries, and then another white spirit, 5 or 6 dries, and just keep going until it's clean, or until I've run out of time. Hey, they market the L85 in real life as being a very accurate rifle. I was young, dumb, and stupid, Mark. What do you expect? This was way back when. When was this? That would have been 2016. I did that, and it got changed back after that. When I got a 7.62 rifle and DMR'd that instead. Also, I was originally planning on DMRing the L86 because that was a DMR, but I can't for the life of me figure out an easy way to make the ICS semi-auto only, whereas the G&G is actually really easy. You just take off the one part that is used to transfer the selector movement to knocking the cut-off lever. There. In terms of hop-up maintenance, if you feel like your hop-up's going, check your rubber first, and you're looking for any tears. You're also looking to feel if it started to go hard at all and stop being supple. You want it to be nice and supple. Things you can do to try and recover it is it rubs the lotion or it gets the hose. Yes, the SLR is less accurate than the SA80. I mean, it's a flapper lock bolt as opposed to rotating lug, but they did do the they did issue them as marksman rifles with the suit sight edition. Really, that was actually to help them with target acquisition in Northern Ireland and identifying. In terms of MOA, I don't actually know, but inherently flapper lock designs. Oh no, not flapper lock. Tilting bolt design is less. The mechanical system is less repeatable than rotating lug bolt. It is known that the fouls are less accurate than, say, a G3 or an AR-18. No, not AR-18, AR-10 design. But I know Northern Ireland do have a DMR'd foul variant. But yeah, 308 semi-auto. It counts as a heavy hitter DMR rifle. Yeah, I think the SLR is around 2 MOA, as opposed to the 1 MOAs you can get out. I think, is it 1.5 out of a G3 and about 1 out of a decent AR-10? Ooh. Okay, Chris, I mean, the stream's going to be ending fairly soon anyway, so thanks for joining in, and best of luck at the store tomorrow. Try not to get coughed on. And see you soon too, Arctic Frenzy. I hope you've enjoyed the stream as well. This is I was just nerding out. But yeah, in terms of op servicing, pre-grease it. If the nub looks worn, replace the nub. If the rubber looks worn, replace the rubber. It's not that expensive. Again, they're like 5-6 quid. Or if you go for maple leafs, they're probably about 10 quid. And then in terms of how I keep my air seal up, I tend to put silicone grease. In fact, I'll do it now because I've rubbed most of it off. Oh, absolutely, Chris. I started this stream quite late, but if we're doing a chat, it'd probably be either a Friday night or a Sunday night, and we'd start at like 7, go to 10 at the latest. But yeah, in terms of sealing a hop rubber, I tend to get my silicone grease and put it forward of the hop window here, and then with my fingers run it back, keeping it away from the hop window and just running it down and under. And it just helps when you push the hop rubber on, it just helps make a bit more of an air seal. And then again, I'll give the external, but not into the mouth of the rubber, a good bit of greasing just to help, again, give it a bit of seal onto the chamber. A decent AR with good ammo should be capable of 0.5 MOA. Very true. That's a well-built AR, and I'm assuming that's a civilian, not military AR, because I have tighter tolerances in them. But again, rotating bolt designs are much more inherently accurate as opposed to a tilting bolt. And free-floating barrels will make them more accurate because they I'll show you. In fact, perfect. I have a semi-free-floated L85 here, and I have a non-free floated L85 here. Technically, the A3s aren't free floated because they have two barrel contact points. They have the rear trunnion where the breech is, and they have a second trunnion where it comes through the front of the receiver. But that's all one fixed part, really. And then from here forwards, it is free floated. So putting pressures on your handguard does not move the barrel. As you can see, the barrel is staying put, but the handguard is moving, which is good. As opposed to my A1 here, where the handguard attaches to the barrel. So any strains and pressures I put on the handguard are pushed onto the barrel and can affect your MOA. And it's even more so, MOA, POI, point of impact. It's even more so apparent in airsoft because guns are generally worse, lower toleranced, so they will have more of a barrel flex. So even as much as lying on like a berm and resting your muzzle on a berm can shift your point of impact compared to your scope that you've so lovingly zeroed. Just trying to find a gun that actually has a fair amount of... Of course. The M14, I have torqued that barrel down and I'm holding the receiver. Wow, that is... I swear that's tightened right into the gearbox as well. Is that the whole gearbox moving? Nope, it is just the barrel moving. There you go. I mean, speaking of like military rifle MOAs and stuff, not being as high as civilian, 9-hole reviews are really good because they take them and run through a course of fire and all the way out to 600 yards, which is what, 550 meters, and like they're still making hits at 600 yards on their gong, which is probably, I think it's about 2 human-sized targets, with irons most of the time. Absolutely, that's the thing. Obviously, if you're shooting civilian and you're lying nicely in a covered shooting point, shooting still targets, it's a lot different from, you know, well, quite topical at the moment, going up Mount Tumbledown with flares going off over your head and Argentine FN mags opening up on you. You know, like you're not gonna be going through all of the thoughts there. Rick, yes, I do believe it does, but the gentleman who has sent me it, Ed, who managed to make half the parts of my other FAL disappear magically, hasn't sent me all of the bolts, or has lost most of the bolts, so it doesn't attach to the barrel at the moment. That's still a work in progress. But yeah, I still think, I'm not entirely sure, I think they trained out to 600 yards with the suit on the SLR. I know it's cammed for 100 and 400, I think. So yeah, the suit's a very, very rugged style sight. This is a real suit. Yes. No, Tom, I don't need to print a spacer. It's a bolt that goes through it that I need to get hold of. It's probably just going to be an ugly M6 bolt that I pull out of my parts bin. And it's probably going to be in silver because I don't have any black. But yeah, the SUSAT's very rugged sight, much like sorry, I said SUSAT. The suit sight is a very rugged sight. Predecessor to the SUSAT, entirely mechanically adjusted for both windage and elevation. But it also has this lovely little cam here, which is your range selector between 100 and 400 yards, or for me between like 30 and 50 meters for airsoft, or probably 30 and 80 maybe. very nice sort of optic, this. And I'm not sure how this is going to show up, but it has the inverted pillar, so it's the other way around to the Susat. But it's quite a nice little optic. Ooh, let's see if we can. Hello. I spent far too much money on that. But yes, so yeah, I talked about the barrel, I think. Talked about sealing that up. I used to Teflon tape them, but I found that you can actually get pretty good results just with silicone grease and not having to Teflon tape them. Oh, the 1P1S. I want to get one because I want a legit optic for my 74 here. It's got the rail. It just needs the optic on top. I don't know. I'm just a sucker for service rifles with optics. I'm not. Always have been. I don't. Other than when I was renting off the club when I first started, I don't think I've really run a gun without optics. Other than when I lost the Susat off the SLR when I'd bodged it, and when with the Sterling, because there ain't no optics on a submachine gun like that. So yeah, coming back to the barrel, you can Teflon tape to try and improve your seal. I find you don't need it anymore. If you silicone grease the inside and outside, you get pretty good consistent results. Where you can Teflon tape, and I have done, is up on your barrel to try and improve the barrel spacing to stabilise the barrel, because that will help. Because if your inner barrel is loose in your outer barrel and it wobbles about each shot, your consistency is going to go to balls. It's all about finding the points that will add in uncertainty to the path of the BB and trying to negate them as much as possible. So, the first big one is the quality of the BBs. How do you negate that? By good quality ammo. I personally use ASG blasters. They tend to work really well. Then it's what else is going to cause the inconsistencies? Oh, the compression between them, the compression ratios, not compression ratios, just the compression. If you've got a variance in FPS each shot, that's going to affect the output energy of the BB and therefore the path it travels. Then after that, is the barrel quality the same? Because if the barrel quality is different along the bore, then obviously as the BB goes down, it is going to experience different effects and therefore have a different path each time. Upgrade the barrel quality. Is the hop quality good? That kind of comes under compression though. And then is the inner barrel going to wobble around the outer barrel? Okay, let's stabilise that. And then is the outer barrel going to wobble from the receiver? Okay, let's fix that. So it's all working through and just trying to get all of those inconsistencies down. And when you get your inconsistencies down, you find that your shot-to-shot placement should be much smaller than it otherwise was. Yeah, your grouping will be much smaller. Your shot-to-shot placement will be more similar. And I'm pretty sure Tom will say, will chime in with something I've missed, because I've inevitably missed something there. Just trying to think. Any other questions, comments? What's everyone's plans for tomorrow? I'm working from home and eagerly awaiting the cylinder for the M14. Yeah, absolutely. So the PTFE on the barrel is both stabilising inside if it is wobbly, and B, it's trying to dampen that vibration, because if there's any movement, you're going to get the vibration. So yeah, it's two sides of the same coin, because in some guns you've actually got quite a tight barrel, but tight tolerance between the inner and outer barrel, but there was still enough for it to vibrate. And other guns, you've got a big gaping recess, and that you just got to stuff that hole. Which was the case with the G&P M14 I did a couple of months ago. That was January time. That one I couldn't figure out for the life of me why it was. Basically, done all this upgrade work, put a new barrel in, got everything, took it to the site for my mate to play with, and then all the BBs came out sideways, and I was like, oh, that's crap. And then I took it home, took it apart again, and realised that tight inner diameter of the house barrel was actually just a plastic plug at the start, at the breech end of the barrel, and you pull that out, and it's just like 20mm wide inner barrel all the way, outer barrel all the way down. So I pulled the plug out, fitted it to the barrel, put a big spacer on it, and now that M14 performs wonderfully. Ooh, that sounds like fun. Finishing an edit, filming some social distance episode with Gage. That reminds me, I need to contact Thurleston and try and book a slot. If you're still up for that. Spoilers, everyone else. Trying to take over the world. What, you and your 25 split personalities? Thank you, Mo. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm pretty much winding down the stream now. Just nothing much else is going to happen unless I do something really stupid, which hopefully I won't. I decided not to go for a Star Wars themed t-shirt today, in case people were going to complain about the fact that I badmouth Star Wars over Star Trek. Also, we totally need to set up an SG team. I'm down to SG. I don't know about the rest of you though. Damn right. Dear. Also, one of the things, I've got a load of guns that I haven't done reviews on, but it's all because they are my guns that I've had for a while and have teched and changed it internally. Would people be interested in me just talking about the guns I already have and about the upgrades I've done to them and what I think of them? Or would you much rather me get guns in that are untouched and actually go play with them and figure out how they perform and then talk about those, so if you're looking to buy them, you know that's probably what they're going to come out of the box like? Because obviously I can't go, like, I really want to do more with this, but I can't because I can't get out and play. I can't get out and play with it, which is annoying because I've got so many ideas about making the review video for this that I want to do. Please, I've just bought you Havoc setup. What, Tom? Seeing as you identify as a girl, I guess you're gonna have to dress as Carter to get that level 3 advanced hand combat. Yes, always yes. Reviews are always good to go back over old guns. Absolutely. Well, seeing as I've been talking about as much, and it seems to be an SA80 themed month or so for me, I could do a nice little rundown of my G&G, and well, I guess I've already done it to death. Could talk about the SLR, yes. I like people's customised gears. Okay, yeah, I could talk about my stuff, although my actual kit is not the best. I tend to focus more on the guns than the kit, although that is something that I need to change and actually start, investing more money into my loadouts. In fact, there was a stream that is no longer available that was talking about should you cheap out or should you spend the money, and I need to go and buy some decent boots because my combat's coming to the end of their life. Do it. Do it. Customized. I think the L85 is probably the most customized. There was a point where I actually tore the entire gearbox out and tried to build an electro-pneumatic system into it, which I do have the parts for somewhere. Get yourself a brown beret. I've got a beret, thank you very much. Oh, I want the patch on. There's the patch. Oh, the patch is up on the wall. Right there. That's where my logo came from. That was when I did a Vietnam game as Anzac, and we made our own custom angry kiwi. In fact, if I am smart, which I'm not, I might even be able to flip my down cam over to zoom in on the kiwi patch. Come on, round you come. Oh, that is my face. That is still my face. There it is. The New Zealand Supac Regiment. Because there was a uni club that went. And there was also my uni patch. And my uni call sign. And some other patches. The more you know. Thought of the theme kit makes me want to make a Jurassic Park kit. Oh, what you want to Spaz 12 and go hunting Velociraptors? Were they Velociraptors? Yeah, Velociraptors. That'd be fun. Oh, you clever little girl. Gotta wear my beret patch. Oh, I think this beret has lost any shape that it did have because it's been sat for many a year now on my windowsill. Oh yeah. It's been years since I formed a beret properly. Also, I used to use round patches to form the beret. Nope. This is a shambles. Ah, the second film. Of course. That's not. Oh no, that's pretty bad. It needs proper shaping. I'm going to take that off before I embarrass myself too much. I don't really wear berets. Actually, I don't tend to wear headwear at the moment, which is probably why I get spotted so easily with this nice shiny hair I have up here. And shiny forehead. Look at that. Anyway, right, the stream's been going for almost 3 hours. Oh. What was I going to say? Oh, that was it. Oh, where's the coil? These are only parts. Yeah, this was a whole design to switch out and not have the lower gearbox, but have the upper sit on here with electromagnetic coils in it. Ah, here it is. Electromagnetic coil, and then I had magnets hooked up to the piston, so you should have been able to pulse the coil and pull the magnet back and forth, and then have a cycling piston. The hard part was getting it to then also do the tappet plate, which is why I'm thinking maybe if I can make a tappetless air pressure based tappet plate, which is what they use in paintball actually, that we could make it possibly work. But then I thought, actually that's probably going to be hugely inefficient. The only benefit is you can make it quite silent. Anyway, the more you know. Yes, hot water, shape on head, wear till dry. Absolutely, Mark. Completely agree. I just haven't had the time or the inclination to do it at the moment. Also the Velcro Dom patch doesn't lend itself well to that. It just tends to peel off, which is annoying because I use it as the like shape point. When I used to always pull up and then down on the berry and then heat. But look, it was like all crisp and now it's not. Oh well. Maybe I should go stand in the shower like this for an hour and then let it dry. Do TTWs use tabletless nozzles? I don't know. I've never used a PTW before. I look to the elders on the chat who may have used them. Now you can see me in two angles. Tom, did you ever have a PTW? Were you part of the PTW craze? Getting silence from him. I can't believe there's still 10 of you sitting here. You waiting for me to fall over or something? Yeah, I'm really not sure. I'm assuming they did actually, because if you look at their changeable cylinders, you don't see a black tappet plate fin. Okay. Sorry, I just... What? No, fair enough. Sorry, I just had a message on the page from a random... I'm not going to name them, random channel, just asking me to go sub on their channel. But again, I kind of talked about this, just... I get the point in advertising your channel. I don't understand pleading people to go subscribe. I mean, to be fair, they're not exactly pleading. They've said, if you got a spare minute, could you go pop over and check out my channel and share and subscribe? I mean, ask it to a bigger channel. I'm not a big channel at all. I'm tiny, and most of the other channels seem to grow at a faster rate than this one. Probably means I'm bad at what I do. I've only just arrived. I hope you enjoyed Silence. I'm sure I've seen it on a schematic, but it was a while ago. I would honestly have to look more into depth about that. About the tabletless plate, and I'm thinking Tom has disappeared. Probably off to watch Sam Carter. It seems to be the only reason he's watching Stargate. Take that information as you will. Oh, you want me to fall over, do you? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not whoring out my body for likes. I will check out that channel, though. See what it's like. It's not that I won't, it's just I find it a bit weird. The way I see it is, if someone is going to sub to the channel, I'd want them to sub to the channel because they actually have clicked on and seen it and liked what they see, as opposed to subbing to the channel because someone said, hey, can you? It would be really helpful. It'd be really nice. His old man self has dozed off. Yeah. Right, and on that note, I've kind of run out of things to say and talk about for the time being, although I will probably do a stream later in the week fitting 13:1 gears into the SMR and seeing if it works any better. Thank you all for joining and bringing the bat and the chat. I hope everyone has enjoyed themselves tonight. I hope I've helped you get through Monday, and this time I actually didn't cock up all that much while doing tech, which is just amazing. I mean, I state that I'm kind of a tech channel. Following on from that, from an earlier discussion, if any of you do actually have stuff that needs doing and want me to do it, I might, yeah, I'd be happy if I've got time to have a look at your stuff and do tech work for you or chat through it. That's kind of why I'm here. I want to help and make videos, and having stuff to do helps make videos. Anyway, to close up the chat, I'm going to give you 45 seconds to ask any last minute questions, and if not, Sunday please, I work late. So I might try and organise a live stream with Chris and maybe someone else to talk about like the difference between hobbyist techs and store techs, and how actually it's a really crap life for some. Otherwise, I'll do a tech video when I can do a tech video, I guess. Although Sunday I might be a bit busy sorting out some stuff. Possibly Saturday for the live stream. Who knows? Anyway, thank you all so much for coming along. I've actually got the gun back together. I forgot to put the barrel back in like a mug. And on that bombshell, good night.